What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So we'll be reading Luke chapter 6. I'm reading from the NLT, the New Living Translation, as per usual. Also, I have here the Geneva Bible, the 1560 edition, kind of as a reference point as well. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Luke chapter 6, a discussion about Sabbath. One Sabbath day, as Jesus was walking through some grain fields, his disciples broke off the heads of wheat, rubbed off the husk in their hands, and ate the grains. But some Pharisees said, "You shouldn't be doing that. It's against the law to work by harvesting grain on the Sabbath." Jesus replied, "Haven't you ever read in the scriptures what King David did when he and his companions were hungry? He went into the house of God, ate the special bread reserved for the priests alone, and then gave some to his friends. That was breaking the law too." And Jesus added, "I, the Son of Man, am master even of the Sabbath." So about King David, we'll read about that later once we go into the Old Testament. Jesus heals on the Sabbath. On another Sabbath day, a man with deformed right hand was in the synagogue while Jesus was teaching. The teachers of religious law and the Pharisees watched closely to see whether Jesus would heal the man on the Sabbath, because they were eager to find some legal charges to bring against him. But Jesus knew their thoughts. He said to the man with the deformed hand, "Come and stand here where everyone can see." So the man came forward. Then Jesus said to his critics, "I have a question for you. Is it legal to do good deeds on Sabbath, or is it a day for doing harm? Is this a day to save life or to destroy it?" He looked around at them one by one and then said to the man, "Reach out your hand." The man reached out his hand and it became normal again. At this, the enemies of Jesus were wild with rage and began to discuss what to do with him. Jesus chooses the 12 disciples. One day soon afterwards, Jesus went to the mountain to pray, and he prayed to God all night. At daybreak, he called together all his disciples and chose 12 of them to be apostles. Here are their names. Simon also called him. He also called him Peter. So again, this is the same Simon Peter whose boat he was in earlier in chapter 5. A lot of times they refer to him just as Peter. Andrew, Peter's brother, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, and this is why here's another Simon who was a zealot. That way they don't get him confused. That's why he called the first Simon Peter. Judas, son of James, and then Judas Iscariot, who later betrayed him. Crowds follow Jesus. When they came down the slopes of the mountain, the disciples stood with Jesus on a large level area surrounded by many of his followers and by the crowds. There were people from all over Judea and from Jerusalem and from as far north as the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon. They had come to hear him and to be healed. And Jesus cast out many evil spirits. Everyone was trying to touch him, because healing power went out of him, as they were all cured. So here we can see that the healing power actually went out of him. So I'm not sure if that's why the people were touching him, or if they're trying to say like the healing power went out of him as people were trying to touch him. Then Jesus turned to his disciples and said, "God blesses you who are poor, for the kingdom of God is given to you. God blesses you who are hungry now, for you will be satisfied. God blesses you who weep now, for the time will come when you will laugh with joy. God blesses you who are hated and excluded and mocked and cursed because you're identified with me, the Son of Man. When that happens, rejoice. Yes, leap for joy, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were also treated that way by your ancestors." Sorrows foretold. What sorrows await you who are rich, for you have your only happiness now. What sorrows awaits you who are satisfied and prosperous now, for a time of awful hunger is before you. What sorrow awaits you who laugh carelessly, for your laughing will turn to mourning and sorrow. What sorrows await you who are praised by the crowds, for their ancestors also praised false prophets. So I think, especially with the last part here, for the sorrows await you praised by the crowds, for your ancestors also praised false prophets. I think that one specifically more towards the Pharisees, because they loved the attention of everybody else. Jesus talks about it all the time. But there's one thing that I want to point out. So instead of saying what sorrows await you that are rich, that is in 24. Let's see here. In the older version, in the old translation, they use the word woe. So here it is. But woe be to you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Woe be to you that are full, for you shall hunger. Woe be to you that now laugh, for ye shall wail and weep. Right? So the word woe is what they used, and what the meaning of that word is this: woe, word expressing strong grief, distress, or lamentation, often used as a prophetic warning of impending judgment and calamity. It signifies a serious warning, a denunciation, or a pronouncement of doom, highlighting the consequences of sin and disobedience. So it's kind of a pretty powerful word. I'm not sure if English language necessarily has such a word right now, so I don't know if that's why they changed it, but I thought I would point that out. Like, he's using a very, very strong word here to kind of talk about these people that are, fully taken in everything of this world, right, that is worldly, and not worshiping God and things of that nature. So he's like, yeah, go ahead, like, these terrible things are coming for you, people who are rich, and you're all super happy right now because you have what you want, things of this world, you don't care, you're treating others harshly and things of that nature, you're not following the way of God. So all these terrible things are coming to you. All right, love for the enemies, and I think a lot of people need to hear that. This is pretty powerful here. All right, so let's read it. But if you're willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. But if you're willing to listen, please listen to those of you, and I know at least of a couple of people, hopefully, that are watching this video, talking to you people. If you're willing to listen, I say, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Pray for the happiness of those who curse you. Pray for those who hurt you. If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek. And that doesn't mean that, allow somebody to use you as a punching bag somewhere in the street. What he means, from my understanding, what he means by saying, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, turn the other cheek, is if somebody slaps you, turn the one that's all red, all hot, all angry away from it, and turn the cool, calm, and collected one towards the person to address them in a cool, calm, and collected type of manner, rather than with anger, hate, and the frustration that you have from the other side that just got slapped, right? I think that's what he means. He's not just saying, like, go and allow people to beat up on you just because you're my follower, right? Is that if somebody does offend you, or if somebody does hurt you, turn that offensive side, try to turn it away to a cool and calm and collected one. This is, in my understanding, that's what he means here. If someone demands your coat, offer your shirt also. Give what you have to anyone who asks you for it. And when things are taken away from you, don't try to get them back. Do for others as you would like them to do for you. Do you think you deserve credit merely for loving those who love you? Even the sinners do that. And if you do good only to those who do good to you, is that so wonderful? Even sinners do that much. And if you lend money only to those who can repay you, what good is that? Even sinners will lend to their own kind for a full return. Love your enemies. Do good to them. Lend to them. And don't be concerned that they might not repay. Listen to this. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will truly be acting as children of the Most High. For he is kind to the unthankful and to those who are wicked. You must be compassionate, just as your Father is compassionate. So what is he saying here? Jesus did not come back when people were good enough. He didn't wait for people to be like, all right, you're as good as you're ever going to be, as far away from sin as you're going to be. Like, everybody's great right now, so I'm going to go ahead and come. No, Romans 5:8 says that God showed his love for us in that way, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So while we were still sinners, while we were still rebelling against God, while we're still doing atrocities and breaking all sorts of commandments all around the world, while we were still doing all of that, God loved us so much that that's when Jesus came and still died for us, right? And Jesus tells us to be like the Father, try to be like him. And here it says again, love your enemies, do good to them, lend to them, and don't be concerned if they may not repay. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will truly be acting as children of the Most High. For he is kind to the unthankful and to those who are wicked, and we're called to be like the Father. You must be compassionate to those of you, or to those people that are even mean and rude to you, and that hate you and that persecute you. You must be compassionate just as your Father is compassionate, right? Because you don't know that evil person or those evil people, whoever might be after you or whoever might be trying to do harm to you, maybe the way that you react might make them pause, stop, and think about it and be like, why is he not reacting the way I was expecting him to react or her to react? Why are they reacting to all my meanness and nastiness that I'm throwing at them with love and compassion back towards me? Like, that's weird. Like, I'm gonna want to stop and now think, like, why are they doing that, right? Maybe that might lead them to open up and be like, hey, what is going on with you? Why are you so different? Like, tell me about it. And then opens up the door for you to introduce the gospel to them and talk to them about Jesus and their salvation. But let's continue. Don't condemn others. A lot of people like to use this specific verse to kind of throw back at Christians, when they're trying to argue and stuff like that. I think there's more to it than just this verse, and I'll kind of point out to why I think it's bigger than just this verse. But let's go ahead and read it. Stop judging others, and you will not be judged. That's the one that people like to throw at Christians. Stop criticizing others, or will all come back on you. If you forgive others, you will be forgiven. Right? So even in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus tells us, when you pray, say, Father, please forgive me for my sins, as I have forgiven those who sin against me. So as I forgive those who sin against me, in the same manner, please forgive me. So if you are unforgiving to somebody, you're pretty much saying, hey, forgive me the same way that I'm unforgiving this other person. So if I'm unforgiving, then Father in heaven will not forgive us. That's why I think it's important. I usually always ask, like, if there's somebody in my life who I have not forgiven yet or anything like that, please bring it to my attention. Please bring it up from the depths of whatever I'm hiding that anger or that unforgiveness in. Please bring it up out of me to my understanding, to my realization, so I can be like, oh, that person, like, yeah, dang. And then I'll pray on that. So if you forgive others, you will be forgiven. And if you give, you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full measure, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, and running over. Whatever measure you use in giving, large or small, it will be used to measure what you give back, what is given back to you. Again, so if you forgive others, if you love your neighbors, if you don't judge, if you don't criticize people, right, your gift will return to you in full measure. And such a full measure, right, that it's going to be pressed down, it'll be shaken together to make room for more. And that doesn't necessarily mean that here on earth, right, but as we read just a little bit earlier, the treasures in heaven, right, as well. So do these things, and more treasures will fall upon you, whether in this life or in the next life. Let's continue. Then Jesus gave the following illustration. So here's where I think it's kind of expands on the whole entire idea of stop judging others and you will not be judged. Right? And I don't think it's personal opinion. Again, I don't think it's necessarily just by being judged by God, but also being judged by other people. All right, so then Jesus gave this following illustration. What good is it for a blind person to lead another? The first one will fall into a ditch and pull the others down also. A student is not greater than the teacher, but the student who works hard will become like the teacher. And then here's where I think it's the expanding of the first verse that I was talking about. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own eye? When you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying, friend, let me help you get rid of the speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own? Hypocrite. First, get rid of the log from your own eye, then perhaps you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. So I personally, from my understanding, I think that's the expanding portion of the stop judging others and you will not be judged. Right? If you fix your own issue in your own life with sin, I like to use lust because I feel like it's pretty relevant for everybody, especially in this generation. If you see your friend, for example, and some girl walks by and he checks her out and does one of those, like, nice, like one of those things, and you're like immediately jump on him and you're like, oh man, like you're lusting in your heart, stop doing that, you're gonna go to hell. Right? But then previously to that, you're over here watching inappropriate videos somewhere, cheating around, sleeping around with a bunch of women, or doing other sexual immoral acts. So then you kind of sound like a hypocrite, right? So you're judging somebody and you're being hypocritical because you have your own issues that you're dealing with that are possibly much worse than this. So what he's saying here is, first fix those issues. So if I have some issues, or if I see an issue in somebody else, I need to make sure that I fix those things for myself in my own life before I go and approach somebody else, and another individual, to try to help them with their issue, with taking that speck out of their own eye, right? So once you do that, then you can come to them with love, with kindness, and actually have a solution to the problem. Don't just come and be like, hey, you're bad for this, and like that's it, right? You can come and be like, hey, here's what I'm noticing. You know that according to the Bible, according to Christ's teachings and things of that nature, that's going to lead you to hell. So I was dealing with the same issue. Here's how I combat it. Here's the steps that I took. Here's how I overcame it. Let me help you deal with this and hopefully get you back on the right path, right? That's kind of like where it starts. So don't judge others and you will not be judged. So if you're coming already, you fixed it in yourself, and then you're coming to help other people, that's one thing. But if you're coming to judge somebody and to point your fingers at them, and then somebody else standing on the side, it's like, dude, I just saw you at that one video store that has a bunch of adult content in it, looking at all the videos and all the magazines and things of that nature. Like, who are you to criticize that guy for checking somebody out, right? Again, just my explanation. Let's continue then. The tree and its fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. A tree is identified by the kind of fruit it produces. Figs never grow on thorn bushes, or grapes on bramble bushes. A good person produces good deeds from a good heart, and an evil person produces evil deeds from an evil heart. Whatever is in your heart determines what you say. Again, we see here kind of like a good person, once they fix their own things, will produce good fruits. Again, love, kindness, compassion, things of that nature. Building on a solid foundation. So this one, for me personally, like, I'm pretty hard-minded, pretty hard-headed. So for me, a lot of the times it takes a long time or a lot of repetition for me to get something through and to actually stick and make sense to me, right? So I've read this many times before. Now I'm like, I understand it. Yes, I get it. But it wasn't until earlier this morning when I was reading this prior to making this video that it actually clicked for me. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it means. And I'll kind of explain it to you from my personal experience. All right, so building on a solid foundation. So why do you call me Lord when you won't obey me? Okay, it's not just saying like, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm good to go, that's it, I accepted Christ. In my opinion, there's too many people in the world that claim to be Christian and that claim that they accepted Christ, yet they know nothing about him, and yet their life did not change at all. And I think that's kind of like a big red flag, at least in my opinion. You can say one thing, but if you don't bother reading anything, if you don't find out what he actually talks about, what he actually teaches, how he tells you to live your life, like, did you ever really accept him, or was it just one of those things? And he's going to follow through with it about the foundation, right? So if you follow, let me continue. I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me, listens to my teachings, and then obeys me, right? So he's like, hey, why do you call me Lord when you don't obey me, right? But if you do, let me show you what the person is going to be like when he listens to my teachings and when he obeys me. It is like a person who builds a house on a strong foundation laid upon the underlying rock. When the flood waters rise and break against the house, it stands firm because it is well built. So whenever the pressures of the world and things of that nature come at you, and people try to undermine your belief, undermine your religion, your relationship with Christ, whatever trouble it might be, right? Whether it's problems at work, problems with your family, financial issues, whatever it might be, you're gonna be strong because you have a good, firm foundation. If you listen and if you read and if you obey the commands of Jesus Christ. But anyone who listens and does not obey, so anybody who listens and it comes out the other ear and does not obey, is like a person who builds a house without a foundation. When the floods sweep down against that house, it will crumble into a heap of ruins. So if you just say, hey, I'm a Christian, and that's great. Everybody has, I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, shape, or form. Everybody has their own walk with Christ. But I do strongly believe that if you claim to be a Christian, yet you never bother to read the Word, you never bother to watch or understand what He's trying to teach you or obey any of what He says, if you claim that, but then as soon as any sort of trouble in life comes, or if anybody comes and starts, poking their finger at your chest and be like, oh yeah, tell me about Christ, and you're like, I actually can't because I don't know anything, and then you're gonna crumble. Financial problems come, problems with your family or health or job or anything like that come at you, and you're gonna crumble because you don't have that solid foundation of Christ. And not necessarily crumble in whatever aspect, but crumble in the relationship with Christ, right? You're gonna easily fall away from it and be like, you know what, I don't want none of this. Like, it's too stressful. It's too much for me to wake up to go to church on Sunday. It's too much for me to open the Bible and read for 5 minutes a day, when you can spend hours upon hours on social media scrolling through stuff. So I think it is very important, if you do call Jesus Lord, if you do call Him your Lord, I think it is very important for you to dive into the Word. This is why I'm doing it. If you don't want to, if you don't want to do it yourself, or if you don't want to, if you don't understand it necessarily, if you don't want to listen to different Bible apps that are free out there that will read, you know what? Then I will flood your media and your scroll things, whatever, with me reading the Bible. That way, at least you can hopefully get some of it in you. But that way, you can listen, you can understand, and hopefully obey what Jesus teaches. Anyways, guys, that's it for chapter 6. I know this video is a little bit longer. I apologize. We'll be doing chapter 7 next. Hopefully, I'll see you there. As always, I love you. God bless you, and take care.